This project started like most do when a friend hits me up and asks, can you build this? In this case, my buddy Sean hit me up and said, can you build a chicken coop? I said, I sure can. I just said, how badass do you want it? He said, all the badass. I said, all right, we'll do a solar powered automatic chicken coop door, a rain collection system for the chicken waterers. We'll put some wheels on it. And we were off to the races at that point. The actual framing of this went together pretty quickly. I developed digital plans, and you can see my laptop in the background. I was just going back and forth, referencing the SketchUp file, and then throwing everything together. You'll notice throughout this video, I'll put little banners at the bottom showing that I have an Amazon link available for whatever specific tool I'm using. The last one you saw was for a Craig jig. I wouldn't say you need a Craig jig for this for pocket holes, but it sure comes in handy. And the one I bought is the cheapest one you can get. It just clamps on to the workpiece. But there's situations like this you see here where you really don't need it. You can just angle a screw in. This is actually the second chicken coop that I built. The first one was for myself at our old house. We had 6 chickens at one point and had to get rid of them before the HOA busted us. So I always knew that if I was to build another chicken coop, it would have certain features. I already talked about being on wheels. That's very important because it enables you to move it around your yard for maintenance and cleaning it, and just being able to relocate it so the chickens can get fresh grass if you don't feel like letting them out and grazing. It's also very important in the actual coop part for it to be tall enough that an adult can open a door and get in there and walk around for cleaning, refilling food, etc. Here I'm getting started on the door so you can access the chicken coop part. There's a number of ways you can build this. I decided to just do simple half lap joints. So here I'm just marking the halfway point using the bandsaw to cut the majority of the material out. And then assembly is simple, just using glue and some brad nails to hold them in place until the glue dries. You can see here how these half lap joints fit together. Super simple, and they're pretty strong. I'll throw some glue in there, let that set up, and then this is me marking out that center support. That's actually going to provide the majority of rigidity to the door, so it's very important that it's a snug fit. Super easy. You just throw it under there, mark it with a pencil where it actually lays. You don't need to do any math or geometry to figure out the specific interior angles. Just trace it, and then cut the material away, throw it in there, some glue and screws, and you're done. Here I'm cutting and prepping the siding to go on the exterior. One of the big regrets I have of this project was buying this cheaper, unprimed, unfinished pine siding. This stuff is terrible. It does not take paint well. It absorbs it all. You need to do multiple coats. You'll see it when I get to painting this thing, but I did it for 2 reasons. One, it was thin and light, so I did it to cut down on weight because I knew this would be a mobile chicken coop. The second reason is it was relatively cheap, so I wanted to save my buddy some material costs if I was to do this again. And what I highly recommend if you plan on building a chicken coop like this is not using this material and using instead the LP Smart siding. And you'll know what I'm talking about if you watch my shed build video. It's the same siding I use for that. It comes pre-primed. It takes paint very well, and it's just a far superior exterior product, which is probably why it's double the cost of this stuff. This here is just an additional brace I'm adding at the top using some scrap 2x4. This is just going to give me some extra material for me to screw the siding into from the other side. I'm using a scrap cutoff here and gluing it to where this seam falls. This does two things. It's going to reinforce that seam joint, and then it's going to add some thickness because I know I'm going to mount some hinges on the door there, and it'll give me some more material for the hinge screws to go through. These are the roosts I installed. This is where the chickens are going to sleep. I've heard a lot of people say you don't want to have varying heights when it comes to the roosts, but as you can see, I have 3 different ones and they're kind of angled, so it gives the chickens some options. The reason you don't want to have varying heights is people say that the chickens will fight to be on the highest one, and that can be problematic if your chickens are always fighting. I say it produces character and will probably produce stronger eggs, at least in the one that's sleeping on the highest perch. So that's why I made 3 different ones at varying heights. You can see how I had to come back for a second coat because that pine just sucked everything up when I used the sprayer. So again, hindsight 2020, I would not use this bare pine. I would use the LP Smart siding that comes pre-primed, and you'll just have to hit it with 1 coat for sure. On to my second least favorite part of this build, the first being painting. I hate painting, but this stuff is a close second. This wire mesh is miserable to work with. It's a pain in the butt. An easy trick I found though was to use some scrap 2x4s to weight it down and then give you a safe surface to use your angle grinder on as you cut a straight line. So the left, right, and top sides of these mesh sections are stapled to the exterior of the coop. The bottom, I notch out the corners and I tuck it on the inside, and that's where those are secured. If you're doing this by hand with a hand stapler, your hand's gonna get pretty sore. Luckily, I have this pneumatic Bosch semi-automatic stapler, which comes in handy for projects like this. I had to flip the whole coop over for 2 reasons. One, I needed to paint the underside with the exterior white paint just to preserve the longevity of the wood so it wouldn't rot over time. And then 2, I needed to put the wire mesh all on the bottom side because what you don't want are the predators like raccoons or possums and shit to dig a hole up under and then access the chicken coop from the bottom side. Big shout out to David from EggCart'n.com. When I was searching the internet for a chicken coop wheel kit, I found these, did some research, and it was a no-brainer. The last chicken coop I built, I put wheels on it, and it was a disaster. Tried to do it myself, and you either got to do it right or don't do it at all. Could I build these and engineer them myself? Certainly. Would it take me a week or so to do? Most likely. Would it cost hundreds in materials? It certainly would. Next time you're in a Tractor Supply or Lowe's or Home Depot or an Ace, you go look at wheelbarrow wheels. They're like 30, 40 bucks a pop. So that's over $100 right there just in the wheels, not to mention the steel, the time it's going to take to build this. So if you want to have a mobile chicken coop, I highly, highly encourage save yourself the time and energy and pain and just buy this wheel kit. It's super heavy duty. It can lift up to 800 pounds. Once I had these things installed, it was a dream moving this thing in and out of the garage as needed. So a neat little trick that I'm doing here is I just took a piece of construction string and tied a weight to one end and then used those clamps to clamp it down, and that enables me to get a perfectly straight line so that my screws look nice and pretty and aligned. Shout out to Brunt for sending me this new pair of work boots. I don't know if you could tell other parts of the video, most of the time when I'm woodworking, I'm either barefoot or just wearing off-brand Crocs because I don't deserve brand name Crocs. That shit's too expensive. My wife would kill me if I came home with real Crocs. But they sent me these pair of boots and I started wearing them throughout the duration of this build. And I can tell you they're pretty comfortable, durable, and it felt good just having the security on my feet in case I drop a chicken on them. For the feeding system, I decided to go with these feeding attachments that I got on Amazon, and they're pretty simple. It comes with the drill bit that you need. It's all included, comes with the O-rings, everything you see there, and you just drill holes in a bucket and you screw them in and you're done. And that's useful because any other feeding system, you need to be aware that if it gets wet or if it's super humid in your climate, the feed will get moldy and it'll clog. So you need an easy way to where you can access it and clean it out. Now I'm working on a way to collect rainwater from the roof to fill a vertical reservoir so the chickens have a constant supply of water. I'm essentially just building a gutter system here, and I cut some PVC on the table saw, then added some end caps. These little waters here are awesome. I had them in my last chicken coop and they worked really, really well. There's basically these plastic yellow kernels that are in there, and the way they work is when the chicken pecks at the kernel, it opens a valve and it fills with water. So the more they peck, the more water they get. And it's pretty easy to train them. When they first get out in your coop, you just stick their head in there and they see that there's water in there, and the act of them drinking the water will also refill that little cup. Huge shout out to Mitch from Farmlite. He's an engineer and he's the one that actually designed and created these automatic chicken coop doors, and this is the business he runs. If you do a quick search on Amazon, you'll see that there's much cheaper options out there for automatic chicken coop doors. But if you spend any time at all, you'll see terrible reviews on it where they're made of cheap parts and they break and it's completely useless. This is some quality stuff. Mitch has tons of videos on his website where you just follow through, and the setup is a breeze. You could see me there just taking a rest inside, drinking coffee, figuring out how this cool piece of gear works. It's actually pretty slick. It's got a variety of settings you can use to have the door open or close. You can set a timer on it where, let's say 5 a.m., 5 p.m. is when it opens and shuts. It has an automatic light sensor on it where you can adjust the sensitivity. So as the sun comes up, the door will open. As the sun goes down, it'll shut, and your chickens will get used to that schedule and they'll go inside.
Yeah.
It also has like a garage door opener remote. You can see there my daughter's testing out the manual button, and also it has a infrared sensor where if a chicken tries to walk in, it'll open back up just like a garage door. Another cool feature about this thing is it can be hooked up to a solar panel, so you don't got to worry about having it plugged into a hard line or batteries or any of that stuff. If you do want to run an extension cord to it, it's hooked up to run like that as well. But if you want to be super bougie like me, you can throw a solar panel on it. If you're running a solar panel, you need somewhere to store the power, and that's going to be in this battery. I built this quick box that has a French cleat type mount on it, so I can take it on and off as I'm connecting and disconnecting the battery. Dragging it outside here to give it a little test. It worked great. Another cool feature to have is a string you can pull from the outside to lift that ramp. That comes in handy when you need to clean it, get in there, and do coop maintenance. At this point, this coop is 100% done. I've got it moved outside, and I'm just waiting on my buddy Sean to come pick it up with his trailer. If you're interested in an automatic chicken coop door with solar panel capabilities, I highly recommend you check out Farmlite. I'll link that below. If you're interested in a high quality wheel kit to make your chicken coop mobile, highly recommend EggCart'n. I'll link their site below as well. If you want to try to build something like this yourself, I do have build plans available on my website. I'll put that link below as well. If you guys have any questions on this build, just leave a comment. I check those daily. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.